Welcome to the Create the Life You Want podcast, where we break down the journey of people just like you going from dream to ownership in business acquisitions, franchises, and startups. I'm your host, Jeremy Ames. Today's episode is brought to you ad-free by Guidant Financial. Guidant is America's leading company helping aspiring entrepreneurs use retirement funds to buy or start businesses. If you're committed to buying or starting a business, you can find out more about your funding options by going to www.guidantfinancial.com. That's Guidant financial.com. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am your host, Jeremy Ames, and today we've got a fun one for you. I am joined by Damon Lomison, and we are going to find out from him how he went from accounting to owning a distillery, which is fascinating to me. I've had a few moments from time to time over the years where I've looked at my financial statements and thought, man, I could use a drink. And I'm wondering where this particular idea came from, Damon. So maybe we'll start there. You were in accounting. How on earth do you go from accounting to the idea of opening a distillery? Where did this come from?
It didn't happen overnight. I got the idea, for about 30 years I brewed beer, and I brewed with my brother, and we had talked for probably a decade that one of these days we were going to just hang up our, get away from the spreadsheets and the computers and open up a brewery. As we started looking to where we would do that, the town that we're in right now is just overrun with breweries. And about 10 years previous to that, we had learned how to distill, and big fan of lots of different spirits, but we love whiskey. And so started thinking more seriously about opening a distillery because we thought, hey, we'll be the only game in town. We can complement the other breweries in the area. So we both work as accountants. He was working for a crane company here in Williamsport, and I was down in D.C., working for a federal agency, and just happened to find a building that would really work well for our distillery. And so I called him on the phone one day. We were both at work, and I said, hey, run down the road and check out this building. I think it can work out for us.
So you had this in mind for a couple years, first as a brewery, and then when you saw that the area was being covered in breweries, you thought maybe a distillery. But it sounds like you were sort of passively looking for the right piece of real estate, and that was going to be the thing that would say, hey, it's the right time now.
Yes, you definitely have to find the right spot. I lived outside of D.C. in Virginia and was considering opening it there. In my zip code in that area, there were more wineries than any other zip code in the whole state. So there was already a market for people leaving the city on the weekends and just, loading these places up. And that still would have been a good model, but looking at the rules and what was allowed for a distillery, Pennsylvania was definitely more lenient. Taxes were a lot less, and the thought of moving back home, was appealing too. Mom and Dad are getting older, so we started looking in both areas and ended up finding something up here.
Yeah, and I'm curious. Were you just looking for a piece of real estate that you could lease, or was it always part of the plan that you didn't want to move forward unless you could buy something?
Yeah, no, I've just never really cared much for leasing property. I'd rather I say that, and later on we'll get into this. We did end up leasing a place, but it's a second location for a tasting room. But our headquarters, we own that building, and that was definitely what we wanted. We wanted to be able to not have restrictions on how we put in equipment, what we were storing there. When you're going to store hundreds or thousands of gallons of flammable liquid, you don't want to have to deal with a landlord.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you're scouting properties in both Virginia and Pennsylvania. You find this one in Pennsylvania. Your brother goes to look at it, and what? You're ready to do the deal? I mean, what happened from there?
Well, we loved the building, and it's right along a creek, and then we found out that it's in the 100-year floodplain. So It was going to require us. Now it's going to be a long shot for it to ever get flooded, but that's what FEMA has decided. So we kind of passed on it for a while, and we kept looking for about 4 or 5 months, but we kept coming back to this building. So then we started talking to the owner, and Also, we had to talk to the township because we were also trying to open up a distillery in what's been pretty much a dry township for forever.
Meaning
And
there are no breweries in the town either?
there's
Or,
there's no there's no place to get a drink in the township. Well, there wasn't till now.
oh,
We're the only place that you can get a drink in that township, and we just happened to land there at the right time. Went to the council meetings, got to know the members. Some of the people that had said no, there wouldn't be a drink in that township unless it was over their dead body had had passed on. So
yeah.
we got the approval, but that took us about 6 months. 6 months of meeting with them and discussing, and then that was a contingency that we had on the purchase of the building, was if the township was going to allow us to change the purpose. And once we got that approved, at that point, then we already had all the financing squared away, and we just built it.
So you see this property, you pass on it for 4 or 5 months, and then you went back and signed a deal on it, but contingent on getting the city to say, hey, you guys can move in here and turn this into a distillery.
Yes.
How much time and energy did you put into this thing, having no idea if it was going to actually be able to be pulled off?
It was, yeah, I mean, it was, we were both still working full time. And so most days you get off work and come home and just spend a couple hours working on business plan, graphics, trying to get the stuff around that was going to answer the questions that the township had. And then from there, you're like, well, we got to get you've got a chicken and egg scenario. You've got to get a federal license. But you can't get a federal license without a still. And how do you go and spend, you know, $60,000-$70,000 on a still before you know you're going to get everything approved? So yeah, it was pretty nerve wracking. But once we found the building, we put together a 3-year plan of when we wanted to open. So we wanted to give ourselves time to get the licenses, get the equipment, and then actually start making product, getting it in bottles. So from that point on, once we found the building, just about every weekend, every vacation day, and every spare dollar we had went into the distillery.
Went into this. So how many hours do you think you were in before you even got to the point where you said, yes, this deal is moving forward and we're going to close on this building?
Trying to think here, but I mean, it was from when we found the building, working with the township, it was half a year. So you got at least, and
At least 6 months of
probably at least
part-time.
1,000 hours, probably.
Yeah. The reason I keep asking you these questions, Damon, is because frequently I talk with people who want to buy or start businesses,
Hmm.
and they invest a very little bit of time and are sort of expecting the business opportunity or the idea to come to them. And what I found for the people who actually end up doing it successfully, they usually put a lot of time into going out and nurturing the idea or finding the right opportunity. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. You spent years building this vision for the thing that you wanted to do, and then the equivalent of years sort of putting the pieces in place to bring it live.
Yeah, and you have to go talk to people that are doing it too. I got a lot of information from, oddly enough, I told you there were so many vineyards in the
Yeah.
area. I got to know some of the winemakers, even with a buddy and I, we used to play guitar at a lot of at a lot of the wineries on weekends, way before I came up with this idea to open up the distillery. But we would spend a lot of time talking to the winemakers and just understanding, how difficult it is to get started in this industry. For them, their rule of thumb was always it's 7 years for a winery to become profitable.
Yeah,
And so
wow.
that's kind of always stuck in the back of my head. Now I don't have to wait 4 years for vines to start making, fruit that you can make wine with. But you've still gotta look at 3 to 5 years before you're actually gonna turn a profit.
Okay, so I'm curious about this because you're an accountant by training. Tell us
Hmm.
about your cash flow projections. How many years were you planning on having to fund this thing before you got to a place where it was making money?
Oh no, I mean, we're doing well, but we haven't, and we probably could have shown a profit, but the way being accountants, it was kind of handy. So um, with using the ROBs, we knew like 2 years before I even moved money over and used the ROBs, we already set ourselves up as a C corporation So then every dollar we put in, we just started writing promissory notes. So every dollar that my brother and I have put in, um, is sitting there as a loan.
Meaning you're putting in extra dollars as well?
Well, we were at the beginning, we were just funding it ourselves. So I
Got
know
it.
this conversation is somewhat centered around using the ROBs, but we easily put 250 to $300,000 of our own money into it
Yeah.
before we even rolled over any investment funds into it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the sort of combination of financing that it takes to make this happen because you've got a couple dynamics in your business. One, you're buying a piece of real estate, right? So that probably includes some type of a loan and a cash down payment. You have to buy a ton of equipment to do distilling at scale. And then for some of your products, especially whiskey, you're probably making the product years before you ever intend to sell it. So how did you put the pieces together?
Like I said, we had a 3 year plan, and we wanted to give ourselves that amount of time. And also, I knew that I was, I had the luxury of I didn't have to make any money doing this. I wanted to do it, so I didn't have the mindset of how am I going to make money. But it was, yeah, how do we get everything set up? So yes, we took a mortgage on the building, which we still have. Um, we used a line of credit to buy the equipment. And
Okay.
then we had a small business loan that we took out with the same bank that has our mortgage. Um, and it was kind of like a second line of credit. So we had $200,000 lines of credit out there. One we blew completely on equipment right away. The other one we were using as we were building the building, getting the boiler installed, all the things you have to do, all the plumbing, all the repairs, the tasting room, the bar, all those things. We were just using that as kind of like our checkbook. So those 2 lines of credit were the first things that were paid off with the ROBs.
Yeah, so two lines of credit, an SBA loan, retirement funds, and a whole bunch of personal savings all went into this endeavor.
Yes.
So I'm curious, Damon, you said you didn't need to make money on this. Are you just independently wealthy? Because that's a lot of dollars that you're bringing into this thing
Well, no, I
to make it
mean,
work.
I had good investments over the years. I had a long career with the federal government, and just invested as much as I could. So that's why I felt comfortable pulling a chunk out, for this. But but I also structured my life to where I could live on my pension. So, and now my brother and I are there full time. We're pulling salaries, and
Yeah.
the place is keeping up with that. But I had to have it in my mind that I didn't necessarily wasn't gonna get money right away
Yeah.
from it. And then another part of the story too, and I'm probably I don't know if this is the story you want people to hear. Maybe it sounds bleak, but I even once I knew I was moving from Virginia back to Pennsylvania, I had a beautiful property and I loved it there, but I went ahead and sold it. So I had that. So whatever equity I had in it then also became available for me to invest into the business. And I lived in my friend's basement for the last year and a half of my career. So
So it, there's there's a bit of genius to what you're talking about here, though, Damon, is that you structured your life in a way where your cash burn was really low and offset by this pension that you had earned. So you essentially took the pressure off the business of having to take care of you personally.
correct. Yep.
And so that's what you mean when you said you didn't need it to make money on any particular timeline, as you could sustain your life ongoing without it.
Exactly. I always knew that like pulling my brother into it, well, I knew I couldn't do it alone and I wouldn't want to do it with anyone but him. So, I would have to pay anybody. So, paying him that was always part of the plan. I needed to make sure that he was going to be able to make a living. But now there's both of us and we've got 5 other employees now after just a year and a half.
Yeah. Well, what's been the biggest struggle so far, Damon, when you think about all the things that you've had to work through?
You know, for me, it was, you come up with a business plan, and I'll just caveat this. I think that people come up with they say, I got a really good business plan. I would tell them I would make 3 business plans. I would look around and look at the possibility that it's not going to be exactly the way that you want it to be. I mean, keep those to yourself. Obviously, when you're trying to sell it, when you're getting loans, when you're trying to work with the local government and stuff, yeah, stick to that one plan. But yeah, the hardest thing for me, and maybe it shouldn't have been, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted. It was having to change our business model midstream. One of the things that Pennsylvania allows that a lot of other states don't is we can do our tastings of our products, but we can also make cocktails, and I can also serve any other beer, wine, or liquor that's made in Pennsylvania.
So
So
once you have a distiller's license in Pennsylvania, you can do all those things. You don't have to go get a separate alcohol permit to.
correct, yep, correct.
Interesting.
And so our tasting room, my experience with tasting rooms to that point down in Virginia and West Virginia and Maryland, and even talking to the distillers was, you would go there, you're there with other people, you do a tasting, you buy a couple bottles, you buy some merch, and then you go, and then you think, hey, that's pretty good as long as you have a good draw. Our place has turned into more. We get that. We get the touristy folks that come in, want to do a tasting, they'll buy the merch, buy bottles, but we've got a big following of regulars at both of our locations that just want to come in and hang out and talk and drink.
Have a drink.
So
Well, you're the only place in the township, apparently, Damon.
we are. And so if you don't mind me just segueing into how we already have a second location, is
Yeah,
that
please.
we're in Williamsport, and we're just out on the outskirts of town. Um, and it's just kind of funny. The people that live out there, they don't go downtown, even though it's 10 minutes away. And this isn't it's not like a city. It's not like DC or anything like that. And city people don't want to come out here. So we had this group of regulars, and our parking lot's full on Fridays and Saturdays. I really don't want to advertise and bring more people in. So we said, we're not getting anybody from downtown. So we just, my brother and I went down and started walking around town looking for real estate, found a really nice building, got a hold of the owner, and he had heard about us and was excited at the possibility of getting us in there. So we talked with him for a couple months and looked at his building and came up with a plan and opened up another tasting room, although it's styled more like an old cocktail lounge downtown.
Yeah. So what do you mean? Because first of all, that's fantastic. Nicely done. Second, my question is, you talked about this being a big struggle, having to change your business model. What was hard about it for you?
Um, I didn't want to run a bar. I didn't want to have a bar. And so we try as hard as we can to keep it different from all the bars around here. Like they'll have, like typical bar, I don't know if you're familiar with Pennsylvania, but it's got its own flavor of like bars and restaurants, and they pretty much all do, got to do karaoke, we got to do quizzo, got to have gambling machines, cheap beer specials and things like that. And we've kept it ourselves very different from that. No TVs, no gambling machines. Music's generally not loud. It's a place where you come and hang out and talk to people and just relax. And so I guess it was hard for me because I wasn't prepared to stand behind the bar as much as I have been and have to, I didn't mind working whatever hours I had to work, but all of a sudden finding myself behind the bar, I had to kind of, I had to flip my mind, my mind frame on that. And I've even tried to pull away. It's no big deal to hire a server and have them do that. But the people that come in, they want to talk. They want to be talking to the people that are distilling the product.
Yeah, that's part of the ambiance, right?
Yeah. Not that I never knew that I was going to. I just didn't know it was going to go quite like this. And I thought we'd have a lot more bottle sales. So we bottled. We had thousands and thousands of our different products in bottles, and we still always have some available for sale. But we didn't have to kill ourselves and bottle quite as much. We didn't need to spend near as much on the bottler that we did either, because we're pouring it. Now we make more money pouring it. I can sell you a bottle and I've got a profit margin, or I can pour 15 drinks out of it and then I've got I got 4 times the profit margin on it now.
Yeah. So interesting. It sounds like in your business plan and in your head, you were going to be this master creator behind the scenes doing the distilling, and you were going to sell these bottles. And instead, you are the head bartender that everyone wants to talk to and spend time with because you are the brand.
Yep, that's very true. Yep, and if my brother and I are behind the bar, we sell more, people stay longer, and we sell more than if we just get servers back there. So
Yeah, well, it sounds like that's what's missing in the Pennsylvania market. Not only do they not have a lot of places you can go grab a drink, but it sounds like many of them aren't really a place you feel connected to.
yeah, and I think that's the clients that's our clientele is we like the people that come in and yeah, they look forward to getting off work and stopping by or just you know I can't tell you how many people we have that are on their way to the grocery store and they just stop in for a drink so they can say hi. And I'm like, well, it doesn't hurt to have a drink before you go to the grocery store.
Hey, honey, I'm gonna go get some groceries.
Yeah, but no, I like the way you put that. Yeah, you think you know the gap that you're going to try and fill, and then you find out that it's slightly different. And um, I think it was just let me back up a second. I mean, we do have bottle sales. We're in probably 10 other restaurants around the area, and they're more the upper scale. That's kind of how we try to keep our products. There's other people around here that'll make moonshine and cheap liquor, but we're trying to keep our stuff more high end, classic spirits, very nice gin, vodka, our whiskeys. But I guess yeah, there was just a few times when I found myself standing behind the bar and I'm like, holy crap, how much money did I just invest in this place so that I could be a bartender? I'm like, this was a bad plan. I could have been a bartender way cheaper. So,
You could have. So when you have those moments where that's going through your head, would you would you trade it? And if so, why or why not?
no, I wouldn't because getting to go to work with my brother every day, having a federal job, I couldn't even have my cell phone with me. Now I bring my cell phone and my dog goes to work with me every day. And oddly enough, I met an awesome lady. She kind of helped us set up the tasting rooms, and then now we're getting married here in a couple months. So it's
Congratulations,
turning into
Damon.
a real family. It's a family affair now. So
Yeah. So you used your distillery to find yourself a wife.
how about that?
That's what I'm hearing. How did that happen?
Well, for about 2 years, while we were doing all the construction on weekends on the building and getting all the equipment put in, we started going down to one of the local breweries just to see what they were doing, talk to the owner, talk to the brewmaster, and she was one of the managers there. And so, just so happened, it seemed coincidental that every time we came in, she would serve our table. So, and then we got to chatting, and literally it was about 2 years that we got to talking, and then one day just asked for a phone number, and I got it. So once I got the phone number, then she really wanted to jump in. She had experience in the industry, so I really credit her for helping us set up the tasting room initially the way that we did, and being as efficient as we were quickly.
Yeah.
There was a demand there. The minute we opened up our doors, we did our grand opening with the Chamber of Commerce, and it was just I think we must have made first night we made like $3,000 worth of drinks in an hour and a half. So
Wow. What was the key to the grand opening going off so well?
I think we had a soft opening, so we've been open for a few weeks, so we already had get so a lot of the locals on that in that area were already like, we're so glad you're here, and they were there. So then and then once they found out about the grand opening, but the Chamber of Commerce, we have an excellent Chamber of Commerce in Williamsport, um, and just their promotion and the people that they got there, they brought the local newspaper. We were on the front page.
Wow. You
Yeah,
and your brother?
our grand opening was on the front page of the local paper. So um, it was awesome. It was really awesome. And then when we opened up the second tasting room in January this year, the chamber did the same thing. Brought the newspaper. The mayor came this time um, and did the ribbon cutting with us.
That's fantastic to get all that support from the city.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to go.
yeah. If I hadn't said that to people, get tied in with your chamber right away. Yeah, you think, oh, what can they do? You'd be surprised that the connections that they'll make for you.
Yeah, sounds like they were critical for you.
Yes, definitely.
I want to go back to something you said earlier because I think it's something a lot of people sort of gloss over. When you start your own business, you end up working a lot. I'm
Sure.
guessing you could tell some tales about putting a lot of hours in. But a lot of people who do it with people that they love, whether that's a spouse or in your case, a brother.
Hmm.
Can you talk about that dynamic and how that's been going from this government job where you can't have your phone to getting to work with your brother every day? Sounds like that's been a one of the many good parts about going down this path.
When we were building the place, it was just fun. No matter how hard we worked or how late we were there, we just had a great time being together and just the looking forward to it and just talking about how great it was going to be when we were both done with the other jobs. And I'll say that when we opened up, it wasn't as fun as building the place. Building the place was super fun and exciting. And then actually, as every weekend we were just going up there and distilling and filling bottles, and it's just me and him in there. We're big metalheads, so we just had the metal cranked up, and we're drinking whatever we want and just having a good time. And then you open up, and then it's business. Then you're not drinking, you're not jacking around, and you have a lot of things to take care of. Now there were a lot of things to take care of before, but I mean, it just got more serious, and then the bills start cranking in as well. So I would say I'm after about a year and a half, I'm just now getting back to having some fun. So you caught me for this podcast at the right time. If you would have done this time last year, I would have been a little more strung out, a little more stressed.
A little haggard. And what's made the difference? Is it getting to the point where you have other employees that are in and you've got kind of a rhythm? What's
I think it's the rhythm. It's figuring out. You feel once you open, we had all these things that we were doing, like the distilling, getting product ready, uh, things like that. And then all of a sudden, now you've got all these customers, and you're still trying to do all those things. And so we had to kind of get ourselves into a schedule. And it took a year to figure out that we're probably not going to distill all year. Just summertime gets busy, and we still need to live as well. So we shut down the still and the boiler in May. We're going to leave that shut off probably till September, and then when October hits, we'll start distilling again. So it's kind of figuring out that rhythm, and then it's obviously employees, they want time off in the summer too. So now it's a lot easier. It's easier for us to augment them being gone. Um, so yeah, that kind of cycle, expecting, knowing people are going to be out. It's also so hot in the distillery. It's better. It's really not a good. We do open fermentation for all of our products, and it's just
oh,
not
so that
really
makes it way
conducive for
hotter.
that. So it's better. It's better when it's a little cooler. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, what I'm taking from what you just shared there, Damon, is that when you're doing a startup, you may not necessarily understand the real seasonality with your business, when customers are going to come in and when they're not going to come in. And it took a year plus for you to sort of learn what that was going to look like. When are the customers heavy? When do the employees want to be off? When's the best time to do the distilling? And how do you structure these so that they're not all happening at the same time?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, because when it was all happening, it was just overwhelming. Especially if, you know, I think to go back to your other question, what made it so hard standing behind the bar? It's not actually, I'm actually enjoying that more now. Now that I feel more at ease with a lot of things, it was frustrating when I had to stand behind the bar and I had this giant list of things that I knew that I still had to get done, and I couldn't do them because this person wants me to mix them another drink. So,
Yep, I have that same dynamic happens to me all the time. I think of it often with my kids because they'll be doing something or talking to me and they'll want my focus and attention, and I'm thinking about five other things that have to get done in the next 2 hours. And so I want to be present for them, but at the same time, I got things that need to get done or I'm going to be falling behind, and that friction is it's real.
yep, absolutely.
It sounds like you're having more fun and you're getting married now. Is your fiance working in the business with you, or she's just sort of been helping with ideas and thoughts based on what she knows?
Nope, she works there. She works there now with us.
Well, so now you're working with your soon-to-be wife and your brother
Yes.
and your dog. So you
Yep.
got the three most important relationships in your life.
Yep. Yep.
Well, Damon, I'm curious when you think about what your life looked like before you started this project and what it looks like now. How are you different? How have you changed? How has this process changed you?
If anything, I've become more easygoing, I think. And you would, and I think I was always just driving so hard, especially working in DC, where you got to pretty much plan on spending, an hour and a half, 2 hours each way in your vehicle and get in there and have to let, what we were doing. And then also just start, everything we had to do to start the business. I worried about a ton of things, but just got through them. But then I think I'm just realizing now that after you kind of get it to the point that we're at, we know there's still going to be problems, but they don't have to feel the way that they did. You just kind of get better at managing them, and also trusting the people that you're around. Having them to lean on is helpful. But I'm going to diverge just a sec, but you still have to be vigilant because even I told you we had a small team, 7 of us, and these are all people that knew each other and that we thought we could trust, and just happened to check a camera and caught one of them pulling cash out of our drawer at a time when they weren't even supposed to be in the building.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that stuff's very disappointing. So,
Yeah, it's one of the hardest parts, I think, of being a business owner is that in order to scale your business to get to the point where you can take all this sacrifice and turn it into something where your life gets better and easier over time, it requires that you have to trust in people.
yeah,
And if you trusted enough people over a long enough period of time, some people are going to disappoint you. And I've seen two different reactions from that. Some business owners, when that happens, they pull in and take control of everything. And all of that potential for the life of more ease and more time freedom that they wanted to, the reason they went down this path sort of goes away because then everything is dependent on them. And then there are other people who I think use it as an opportunity to try and reflect and learn on what needs to be true about how I filter people, how I manage the team to make sure that that happens less and less without losing trust in the people that are there because people often show up the way you treat them.
true. That's true. I managed for a long time with the federal government, but it's you still can learn all the time dealing with people. Now, I'm not saying that everybody I worked with previously was honest, but being in the intelligence community, everybody that worked for me had a top secret clearance, so they had at least demonstrated a certain level of responsibility and trustworthiness in their life. And the people that we're hiring on now, it's a different world. So, um,
Yeah,
because I've
significantly.
had to stop myself and go, what did I do? How did I miss that? Yeah. How didn't I catch that sooner?
So what did you do in this case with this employee?
Um, Not having noticed losing, we hadn't really noticed that we were losing anything. So uh, he was probably just taking, little bits here and there as he could. We did talk to the police about it, but he also had a key to one of our buildings, and we thought it would be easier and cheaper to just get the key back than to have to change out locks if we just turned the video over to the police. So after talking to the police, they gave us some options, and it was very helpful. So we just told him he had an hour to return back what we just saw him take out of the drawer and the key and drop it at the front of the building and have a good life.
Yeah.
So, and we knew the other employees knew him, had known him for a while. He had just attended one of their weddings, so she was very upset when she found out he was no longer with us. So we felt like not completely screwing him over was in our interest too.
How did you handle that with your existing employees? They all know each other, right? So how much of this did you talk about with them versus not talk about with them?
No, we were candid. We just my brother handled this, but he just texted everybody and said, "Hey, this gent's no longer part of the team. If you have any questions, just come talk to us." And so he did,
Yeah, just
and we're just the one couldn't believe it, so we showed her the video, and then she was, oh, it really crushed her. She was very upset.
yeah, that would be hard. So the biggest struggle has been that you said changing your business model. Anything else that really stands out as something that you've really had to sort of fight your way through?
I don't want to say nothing, but um, just I guess it's because it's behind me. I don't think about it as much, but getting the licenses was super nerve wracking. Um, everything that you have to do to get the license from the federal government. And then once you have that, then you get your equipment in. Then you have to have all your equipment set up and ready to go. And you've never done this before the state will even come in. And then the state comes in, and then you're like, oh, I hope they're happy with the way that everything was set up. And they both the feds and the state have different requirements as to how far things can be to each other, where doors can be, what kind of construction the walls have to be between things. So yeah, these are that was just super daunting at the beginning. And the advice that I got, the company that manufactured our still and our mash tun for us, we flew out to Nebraska and spent 2 days with them. We talked to a lot of companies. This company really wanted to spend some time with us, so we we got the tickets, flew to Nebraska, spent 2 days with these guys, and it was invaluable. But one of the things they said to us is, "Do you have a lawyer?" When it comes down to like getting your licenses and things like that, because there are companies that specialize in the legal aspects of it, and their advice was, don't get one. They said, figure it out yourself because you're going to want to know how to do it. So that was probably taking that advice and not getting a lawyer and doing everything. I got to tell you, there were forms that I had to fill out. Our federal license, I think I spent 3 months on it. I filled it all out, and then I would just go home every day and stare at it and just reread it and reread it. And then finally one day I hit click. And
So, Damon, what was nerve-wracking about it? Was it that once you submit this, if you get turned down, it's just done forever? Or was it about you had already had to make so much investment and it was all riding on getting this approval? Like, help us understand what was creating the friction for you?
well, yeah, you have, yeah, we had to buy probably over 100 grand in equipment before we could apply for the license.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah. So you were in.
I think what's nerve wracking is you have to send them like, you show them where you're going to put the equipment, and you've thought this through. Like, here's where the boiler's going to be. Here's where our drains are. Here's where water is. This is where it has to go in our building. And what was nerve wracking was if I didn't represent that right, or it didn't fit within how the federal government wanted it, they could come back and say, no, we want it all moved over here. And then who knew what the cost was going to be, for that. So it was, and then, yeah. And then when the state came too, it's worrying about, are they going to be happy with where everything is? So,
And how did you figure that out? I mean, the guys you work with in Nebraska told you don't go talk to an attorney, which presumably is what everyone else does, so that an attorney can tell them what they need to do and feel like they're going to be on the right track. So, how did you thread that needle?
um, that just really came down to getting off work every day, going home and getting on the computer and just reading the regulations,
So, you were just putting
talking.
in the time to learn it deeply yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Is there any?
And I'm glad I do know it. There was another aspect of it. Reports. If you have a distillery, you have to file 3 reports every month to the federal government, whether you do anything or not. And that's how much did you produce? How much do you have in storage? And how much did you process, which means how much did you bottle? So, um, after everything else we had done, I got to those reports, and those reports are made for everybody: wineries, breweries, distilleries, people that are doing denatured alcohol, the stuff for drinking. So you look at it and you're like, there's all these fields and you have no idea how to fill it out. So we did go with a software company for like the first year and a half, where everything that we did, we logged it, and then it generated the reports for us. Um,
Okay.
so we used, but it was very expensive. It was kind of silly to spend like $400 a month on software. Why can't you just buy the software? But it was an expensive. I thought it felt expensive to me. So we used that for about a year, and then we would look at what we input and then what came out on the report, and then now we've just created our own spreadsheets.
You've used
We
that to
we know
figure it
what we're
out.
doing with the reports now. At least I hope. I haven't been audited yet, but we'll see. I think I'm okay.
Yeah. So you said you're really glad that you took the time to learn the regulations yourself. Has there
Hmm.
been some situation that happened where that knowledge that you gained has saved your bacon in some way?
I don't know. I think the fact that nobody has bothered us, neither the state nor the federal government has even called us and asked us, questioned us on anything, to me is an indication that we're doing okay. Because
Yeah.
they're getting 3 reports from us a month and then a quarterly tax bill. Um, and then the state, I have a good feeling just because there's so many, the PLCB stops at most of the places. That Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, they'll have somebody just stop by different places and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I can't believe that we have 2 places and we've been open a year and a half and that nobody stopped by. So,
Nobody stopped by, or maybe they have and you just don't know.
no, no, I'm saying I can't believe that no one has. I'm sure. No, they'll come in and if you're fine, they don't tell you who they are. They just leave.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah,
Well,
so
Damon, what's the vision for the business going forward? And maybe this is evolving as we speak, but as you and your brother talk about, I guess, and your fiance now, and maybe even your dog, about where you want to go over the next 3 to 5 years, what does that look like?
we keep talking about getting a 5 year plan together, and honestly, I think it will be one one additional location, but probably a little bit further away. So, what we're trying to get ourselves set up for is thinking about would we rent another spot or would we try to buy another place? We're running out of storage. Uh, we've made so much whiskey here now, we're running out of room for it. So we need to come up with other storage options. So another building, but maybe an hour or two away. But it will have to be in a position to where we can hire a full-time manager to kind of run that place for us because it's not something that we could be
Be
there
far
every
enough
day
away.
and
Yeah.
where I want to. But because the model works so good and our products are getting such a good response, I think we can go to a bigger market, go to one of the larger towns uh, away from us.
And as part of the strategy, are you laying down a lot of this whiskey? Are you sort of building a library of stuff that you can sell to some of these regulars and people over time that are going to go up in value, or just a volume
Yeah,
that you're
we do a lot of we have our regular line of spirits, but then we we've done a couple special releases, and then the bottles are all numbered. So, and some people, they'll pay extra for some of the lower numbers. It's kind of funny.
yeah.
We just kind of laugh. It's the same as
Are you holding on to some? I mean, are you carrying some of this on your balance sheet thinking, hey, I don't even want to sell this batch of whiskey for 5 or 10 years because it's going to be worth X? Or is it just you're doing enough volume that you need to store that much over the winter in order to get through your summer months?
some of the first stuff that we did. I wanted to hang on to longer, but we started using so much of it, we kind of had to. But now we're getting caught up, and we will now start probably keeping a lot of barrels longer.
Yeah. And you'll
Um,
keep them in the barrel. You won't even bottle them until
right.
later.
Yep. Yep. And we do
It's
have our
probably,
very first barrel. It's not going anywhere. We may
yeah.
not even ever sell it. We may just keep it for ourselves.
And what would you do with that?
Drink it.
Just slowly over time?
Yep. Yep. Just pull
Yep.
from it whenever we feel like it. Just just for friends and family.
Love it. The special vintage there. Well, Damon, thank you so much for spending your time. I love that you found your wife through your business. That, first of all, I think this is the first time I've heard that on an interview, which is amazing. Um, and second, I just love the thoughtfulness that you put into your approach to this. I think so many people hope that the right opportunity is going to come to them, and you spent so much time and effort and energy to really create a vision and then make that vision come alive. I hope you're really proud of what you built. It sounds very cool.
Yes. Yes, we are. And I'll tell you, I had that. You don't know when that moment's going to be. Like when you're thinking. When I think back 3, 4, 5 years when we were thinking about this and just getting started to just a couple weeks ago. Um, Took my fiance out to this restaurant here in Williamsport. It's an outstanding uh, place. I knew that they carried our products because they'd been buying them from us, but to sit down for dinner and to open up the drink menu, and they had 3 of our whiskeys listed, and they would make you like a variety of drinks, and you could choose which whiskey. So to sit down there and to open that up and to see that was that just made everything just kind of all of a sudden come together. It's like just energized me. I'm like, all right, awesome. Now we go from here because
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not where I was before then. So
That's special.
That was super fun. And then our server even came down and said a woman upstairs was asking which of these whiskeys they should have with this drink, and she said, well, I told her, I said the distiller's right downstairs, and he just ordered it with this one. And so the lady's like, all right, I'll take that one then.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, Damon, thanks so much for coming on the show, and congratulations on your upcoming wedding.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. This has been fun to kind of recap everything and just hear myself say it out loud. So,
Well, where can people find out more about your distillery? First of all, tell them the name and tell them where they can find out more if they're ever in Williamsport or somewhere in Pennsylvania looking for a
yeah,
good whiskey
just
drink.
check out our. I mean, we're on Facebook, but we also have a very well done web page that talks about both of our locations, gives some of our story. We're called Fair Play Distillers. So it's
Fair Play Distillers.
Fair Play Distillers. Do I have 30 seconds? I can tell you the story about her name.
Please.
So back in the mid to late 1700s, there was a group of settlers that settled in this area. Not a huge area, but there wasn't a formal government yet in Pennsylvania. So they just kind of set themselves up. They were essentially illegal squatters, but they told people where they could settle. They kept Indians out. They even regulated distilling to some degree. Their claim to fame, which just down the road from Williamsport is a small town called Jersey Shore, and a creek called Pine Creek runs there. There was a huge elm tree called the Tyodot Elm, and they went down under that tree and signed their own Declaration of Independence from England. Sent two guys on horseback to Philadelphia to deliver it. So it's a little known piece of history in the area, and we wanted to tie into it. So our logo has the Tyodot Elm on it. So, yeah, check us out, fairplaydistillers.com.
Fairplaydistillers.com. Awesome. Thanks so much, Damon. Thanks for listening to the Create the Life You Want podcast. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to future episodes by clicking the subscribe button, you know where. If you're an aspiring business owner, you may also want to subscribe to the Create the Life You Want newsletter for more inspiration and tips delivered to your inbox every week. You can find the link to that in the show notes, as well as on my personal website, jeremyames.com. If you've already decided you want to start or buy a business, consider exploring your financing options by heading to our sponsor's website at www.guidantfinancial.com. That's GUIDANT financial.com. See you in the next episode.